Well, it doesn't show up in the polls yet, but beginning with the presidential debate where Biden's disastrous performance, I think, confirmed in the minds of many, many people, he just wasn't fit to be president, maybe even not fit now, let alone for the next 4 years, combined with the dramatic effect of a near assassination, one spectator killed, two still critically injured, but Trump escaping with a flesh wound, apparently. Nonetheless, having the presence of mind or gut instinct to pose for what will be an iconic picture in American politics for a long time, I think he all of that has given him a very strong position. The Democrats are in disarray. Trump obviously doesn't feel any political pressure to reach out within the Republican Party or reach out beyond his base. That's what the selection of JD Vance as vice president means. Trump feels he's in a very strong place to win, and I think he is. It's going to take a near miracle on the Democratic side to revive their campaign.
I'm sure that's right. Let me ask you about the emerging evidence of a Trump peace plan for Ukraine is to be implemented as soon as he becomes president. Viktor Orban of Hungary has been shuttling between different capitals and has now told the EU in a letter that they ought to be prepared for urgent talks with Russia to reopen diplomatic connections with Russia and be prepared for this peace plan, which looks, on the face of it, like very bad news for Ukraine.
Yeah, look, Trump has said in a variety of ways that he would get Zelensky and Putin in a room and solve the problem. I mean, you can always solve a war of aggression by giving the aggressor what he wants. And I think that's probably the shape of Trump's plan. I think the plan is probably more Orban's than Trump. And Trump's willing to let Orban run with it and see what he can get. But I don't think anybody should be under any illusions. Trump has said as well he could solve the war in Ukraine between his election and being inaugurated, which would be an interesting switch for him, having complained about John Kerry violating the Logan Act with his conversations with Iran during the Trump presidency. But I think that's in store, and I think Xi Jinping simply has to call Trump the day after he wins the election and say, Donald, I'm so glad you've won. Your predecessor was incompetent. You and I can solve the world's problems. Let's sit down immediately. Trump would go for it, hook, line, and sinker.
I'd love to get your speculation about what might happen if this was imposed, because it seems very hard to see Zelensky remaining as the leader of Ukraine, and presumably Ukraine would be plunged into political turmoil if the country was, as it were, forcibly divided and the war was ended on Russia's terms. That then leads to all sorts of questions for the European members of NATO about what Russia does next.
Well, I think the handwriting's been on the wall on that since Putin's famous statement to the Russian Duma in 2005 that the breakup of the Soviet Union was the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. And then next year at the Munich Security Conference, he basically said, I'm going to recreate the Russian Empire. And that's what he's doing. That doesn't necessarily mean that the Baltics, the three parts of Russia that are members of NATO now, are next up, but reamalgamation with Belarus, going after Moldova, the Caucasus republics, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, I think are very much in danger, and Central Asia is somewhere on the menu. So this is for Europe an immediate problem. But with both Trump and Vance now at the head of the Republican ticket, if I were in the Kremlin, I'd be a very happy man at this point.
Indeed. And let me just circle back, if I may, Ambassador, and ask you about JD Vance, because this is someone who could not have been more critical of Donald Trump back in the day, calling him America's Hitler and the rest of it, and yet has become his most ardent and outspoken supporter. What's happened, do you think?
Well, I think the pull of ambition for some people in Washington is very strong, and this is part of the disturbance in the normal political environment that Trump has caused. People, and Vance is a very intelligent man. People should understand that. Normally in politics, people build a philosophy and then find a candidate that they think will help advance it. In Trump's case, people fix on Trump and then say, let's see, what does he believe today? That's what I believe too. And I think on Ukraine is a good example. Vance has simply been trying to position himself where he thinks Trump wants to be. And ironically, I think that will continue if they win. I'm not sure it's going to be Vance influencing Trump. I think it's going to be Trump telling Vance what to do. And Vance will say, yes, sir, in ways that Mike Pence was not willing to do, for example, on January the 6th.
So this is another move towards, as it were, an authoritarian presidency.
Well, I think it's a move toward a yes, sir presidency. And ultimately, this will hurt the country, and it will hurt Trump, too, because the advisors are the one function they serve is to say, well, Mr. President, take account of condition X or circumstance Y or contingency Z. And if people just say yes, sir, and don't give him that advice, it's going to be bad all around.